It's the Art of Action Figures Pokemon Edition. Today we're going to be doing a 2-for-1 build of Blokees Nidoking and Machamp. These two have both come out pretty recently, and I've been meaning to get around to them, so I figured let's just go ahead and do them all in one. Before we get started, what Pokemon would you like to see Blokees make next? I know Gen 1's obviously super popular. Every legendary and high evolution type I'm sure is on their roadmaps, but I'd love to hear what are some of your favorite Pokemon from any generation, and which ones do you think would make really cool action figures? So leave a comment, let me know, and I look forward to reading those. If you're not familiar with Blokees, they make a range of model kit products which vary in complexity. These Pokemon are, I would say, more like figures with assembly required. The parts are already removed from the runners, you don't need to worry about trimming nub marks off and things like that, and they're pretty straightforward to just snap together. There's no paint, no glue, no water slide decals. The faces and parts with color are all pre-printed, pre-painted. They're very simple to assemble. If you know what you're doing, they'll take about 10 minutes. The Blokees packaging is pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot printed in English on here. You do have some sort of holographic Pokemon authenticity stickers for sale in mainland China only. I ordered these off AliExpress, but Big Bad Toy Store does have some of them up for pre-order, so I think the North American distribution was sorted out, or at least BBTS is a very reliable importer of stuff that isn't normally distributed in North America. There's only one Blokees Nidoking and Machamp, so if you just search Blokees Nidoking, it's going to be the only one you find. As to be expected with AliExpress shipping, my box got a little damaged. That's a little tear, and then you can see some wrinkles all around. Let's look at the other side real quick. We've just got kind of vanilla poses. Nidoking is Pokédex number 34, and he is poison and is that ground type. Pokédex encyclopedias are going to have to correct me on that one. Machamp is Pokédex number 68 and is obviously fighting type. Cool. And then around the back, just a bunch of product photos showing the poses and accessories. One thing that's great about this line is they all come with a little display base and some kind of effect part. Machamp has the Karate Chop effect and a blue and yellow combo punching effect. And Nidoking also has two different kinds. He has this sort of like ground swoosh effect and then a horn energy effect. They do say on the back that they're not for ages 0 to 3. Let's go ahead and start with the build. In Pokédex order, we're going to go with Nidoking first. Sharp object, use an adult or an adult brain. Be sure to throw this away, don't leave it out where somebody might try to eat it. And since it was shrink wrapped, there's no tape on the top, so I'm just gonna feed my blade carefully under the flap. You might think it's weird to care about the flap getting a wrinkle in it when the box looks like this, but that's just how I do it. It's facing this way, so let's go ahead and slide it out. And that's everything. Alright, little instruction booklet. It's, as I mentioned, pretty quick assembly, probably less than 30 parts and less than 10 steps, so keep that for reference. And then in the tray, they have some of the more delicate and painted parts in a form-fit clamshell, and then the rest are kind of in this bin area at the bottom. Now let's do a little time lapse, unpack everything. Not really a card collector, but they all come with two different types of cards. There's these little holographic ones with the model kit, and then these with some artwork. Quick part count, everything looks good, so let's go ahead and start building. First step is the mouth. Alright, now to attach the neck, make sure these two pegs snap into place before connecting it to the body. I think it makes it easier. So they're both slotted in the right spot, and then just apply a little pressure until you hear a click. Like that. Got it? Expect the parts should have a little click normally. There we go. Arms, I really don't think there's a difference between these two. I didn't see any label in the tray. Sometimes they'll put an L and an R on the tray itself, but these should fit with either side. Oh yeah. Alright, page 2. Legs snap together with the socket angled back, and you'll need one of these barbell joints. A little tricky to do. I think it's maybe easier to put it in here first since it's a little more of an open, accessible socket. There we go. Alright, and the tail comes in several segments, all connected by ball joints of some kind. Notice that one side has a rounded edge, that's the front, and the other side has a flush edge, that's the back. Because the rounded edge fits inside the flush edge, and that's how the articulation works. Pop. And then just note that anywhere you see this small ball socket, you want to use the asymmetric dumbbell joint. So, like this one, the third segment here, a little counterintuitive, but there you go. Nice. That works really well. Very cool. Oh, that's difficult. Okay, so the socket's at an angle in there. Only able to push in this direction when the socket really requires you to push in this direction to connect. Let's try to just point this ball peg down and see if that works, and then what we can do is feed it in and then push down. There we go. Oh, maybe it wasn't in all the way. Let's try again. Okay, I think it's in. I got an extra dumbbell joint. Maybe this is just a spare. The instructions say I should only have 4, but I got 5, so lucky me. Time to lock in. We're going to put the sticker on the stand. And we got one shot at this. Maybe if you heated it up, you could peel it off. But let's go for it. I want to make sure I get the direction right, because there are some slightly different holes. These two holes need to match up here. They do not match up here. Not bad. We're a little off on some of the holes, but I'll take it. It's kind of funny. The instructions show like 2 different ways to plug the effects in with little check marks by them. Like those are the only 2 correct ways, but I think you could really put these in any of the holes. They fit. So. And last but not least, the horn. energy effect. Boom. Next up, Machamp, the fighting type Pokemon. Sharp object. You know what that means. Quick look over the instructions. Pretty similar. Number of parts, number of steps. Let's start with something different. Let's go ahead and do his belt. The front of his waist has this little piece, because you want to peg the front of his belt buckle, I guess. I don't know what P stands for. Oh, he's got dropped down hip joints in there. Interesting. So the band of the belt just slides over the waist. The P goes towards the top. Just push it all the way in. Okay, and then let's just get his torso stack in here. He doesn't have an articulated jaw. There's two pairs of identical arms, so it doesn't matter which one you put on the front and back. You do need to put a hand on each one, so let's take these little ball hinges, and let's use the fists for now. Shoulders are on these big ball hinges. For arms. And then the feet. The feet seem identical to each other, so I don't think it matters which one goes on which leg, but you do have a distinct left and right leg, and you can just tell the hip socket faces in relative to the knee. Pop those on, and then the knee pads are the same on both sides. There's a ball peg and a straight peg just to keep it in place, I guess. There we go, one leg on. Rock piece snaps together. And the little arm for the effects comes in these two pieces. You want to put it together in a S shape. Get these two together. Let's see, one of these goes into a socket. Nice and smooth. Cool. There's your stand. Again, you want it in kind of this S shape. A two-piece effect part. punching fist, and then a splash impact effect that clips on the front of it. If you want, you can replace his hand with this chopping swoosh, which is pretty cool. Here's a quick size comparison to some of the smaller scale Blokees kits. We have Machamp and Eevee. And from this you can see that the scaling within the Pokemon Blokees line is pretty consistent. They're maybe a little bit smaller than 1/12 figures, but at least within the line they are fairly consistent scale. It's not like their Marvel Rivals line where Rocket Raccoon is like the same size as Venom. And I think that must come down to licensing. Maybe for Marvel they have like, you can make strictly 5-inch figures and they all will be 5 inches. Whereas Pokemon, they seem to have a little bit more flexibility to make characters of different sizes, including Charmander and Psyduck as a couple more examples. And another large-scale Blokees with Charizard here. And Figuarts, or D-Arts, Mewtwo, and this can kind of give you a sense for Blokees running a little bit smaller. And here's SH Figuarts Chun-Li and Amazing Yamaguchi Chun-Li, SHF Games Begin Goku, and Krillin Son Goku's old friend. Now quickly we'll run through articulation for these two. I would say Blokees are like moderately articulated. They have some really nice points like Nidoking's tail. And then some places where they're a little more limited, like the hips, Machamp's neck. They're mostly using a combination of ball joints and ball hinges, and they use materials that will feel familiar if you have handled imports like SH Figuarts or Figma. And what's interesting is the packaging actually lists PVC and ABS as two materials that are used here. The sculpted parts are certainly PVC. You can tell they have a softer feel, more of a rough surface that gives them a matte finish. And the joints, which, based on the packaging, I might assume are the ABS parts. I wouldn't be surprised if these are POM, or POM, which is a very hard surface, low friction plastic that's very commonly used for import joints. It's what gives them that like very fluid feeling. I'd be surprised if they're using ABS for these parts. For one, you don't typically want to do an ABS ball joint into an ABS socket, as ABS has high static friction and tends to kind of bind on itself, and that's where you get figures that like are smooth once you start moving them, but starting to move them can be tough. These feel very smooth right away, and just looking at the surface, like you can tell the joints are a shinier plastic, and that to me is usually a giveaway for POM. So I don't know, that's just an observation I've had about the materials here. I'm curious if anybody else has any opinions and wants to weigh in. It's something I'm always trying to learn more about. I think it helps me make more informed videos. So yeah, let me know if you've handled Blokees or figures like them that have this kind of like hard, shiny plastic for the joints. Okay, for Nidoking, starting at the neck. The neck is a combination of ball joint and hinge. There is a hinge on this little spike at the back of his head that gives him just a little bit more range going up. Altogether, up and down range is about like that, which is good. He can look almost straight up. So you can get him kind of running forward like this, which is great. He can also tilt side to side. Rotates on that lower neck joint. Can tilt and rotate. The geometry does get in your way a little bit towards the edges where his neck being an oval starts to matter a little bit. but all together it's actually a really pretty solid setup. He has the articulated jaw that opens to about there. Ball hinge shoulders that hinge up to there. Swivel all the way around. Gotta watch out for those ears though. Minimal amount of pivot on the ball joint, not a ton. And then accurate to Nidoking's design, his arms, his elbows hinge inward. Maybe 30 degrees or so, not a ton. You can swivel the arms also at the elbows, but the maximum hinge is going to be going inward because there's a cut in the arm. And then no wrist or claw articulation. No torso articulation. Pretty understandable given the kind of hard shell. This material to me seems more like ABS compared to the back. I'm guessing they didn't want to cut through this like compound abdomen piece and these back spikes. The back spikes are relatively soft. I wouldn't go jabbing anything with them, but the hips are ball pegs, and then as you saw when we put him together, he has dumbbell joints for the knees, which is unusual, but works. Given the design, they kick forward, but go way to the side. I mean, you can keep going with it if you really want, and you can go all the way. They kick back, I mean, to there, realistically. And then kicking out to the side, that far on the hip, but then if you start to involve the knee, you can get a little bit of extra. The knees almost act like ankle joints since his legs are so short, and they're really just there to help you plant the feet flat on the ground. The tail is in 5 segments. This last one that looks like it's split is really just one. And there's dumbbell joints of varying size between each of them. It curls in quite a lot. That's actually really good. It's very stable. I've had problems with even the D-Arts Mewtwo that I had out earlier. His tail just like flops. But yeah, Nidoking's tail is rock solid and really nice. Great curvature in any direction. Let's see, can we get like a little bit of an S curl? A little bit, that's pretty good. Yeah, and altogether the combination of the sturdy tail, the big wide feet, and kind of low center of gravity design make for a really sturdy, easy to balance figure. Let's talk about a less easy to balance figure, Machamp here, who is kind of the opposite in weight distribution. All this upper body mass right around his shoulders and very tiny little legs. So add to that they gave him drop down hips, which are a little loose for me. It makes him pretty unstable. He has a single ball peg at the neck, and I would like a little bit more here. He can look up and down just this much. I think he really ought to be able to look down a little bit more, like bury the chin to the chest, tilt side to side, and then looking left and right. He has 4 ball hinge shoulders. They all hinge up quite a lot. They swivel around all the way until they start running into each other. They have a little bit more room than Nidoking for pivot on the ball to adjust them up and down, which can help you get like a little more clearance across the chest. He doesn't have a butterfly joint, but for example, if you pivot the ball forward all the way, it kind of counterintuitively makes his arm go out to the side more, but if you push it back, it gives the hinge more room to rotate in. And so he can bring his arms straight forward, which isn't bad for no butterfly joint. And similarly, going back, you can make him into a letter H if you want. One mechanical thing I've noticed, the back shoulder sockets must be connected in some way, because when I first start moving them, there is like a tendency for them to move together, which is kind of interesting. There isn't any kind of like gimmick or like spring loading in there. It's not required that they rotate together. All of his elbows are the same, single hinge style. They're kind of similar to like Figma. I think Figuarts has single hinges that are like these as well, and they get a little less than 90 degrees. The hands tend to pop off a little bit easily. Ball hinge wrists are a little limited, just given how the hands are cut pretty straight across. And if you push it, the hand pops off a little bit easily for me. Single ball joint, mid-torso cut, works pretty well. Decent amount of ab crunch and leaning going back. Your rotation is limited to the diaphragm joint, and it just gives you a little bit. That's about it before the geometry gets in the way. Same with side-to-side tilt, very limited. And then I mentioned he has drop-down hips, which are a little bit loose. And don't actually help all that much. This tends to happen quite a bit. It's kind of a consequence of just Blokees needing to be assembled, but they have to make it easy to snap together. Plus, there is something to be said for assembling figures at factories. They can have quality control, weed out any parts that don't fit together. It's not to say every company does that, but it is a possibility when you have factories assembling the figures. So his legs, even though they have the drop down, do not kick forward very much. They really have to kick out to the side to do much of anything. As soon as you start going forward, they start kicking out. And even with the drop down fully used, less than 90 and way out to the side, going back, he runs into his butt, to the side, and then he actually has a double hinge knee. And because the kneecap was a separate part, it has that faceted look that I actually really don't like. I know they wanted the kneecap to be PVC so it looks nice with the rest of the leg. But I wish it was a little bit more flush with the knee joint itself and less of a knee pad. When the knee is bent, the knee bends just about 90, a little bit less. Ball hinge ankles go down about that much, up just a bit, and I, for whatever reason, can't get these ball hinges to rotate. I don't know if they're designed to. They're very stuck if they are, and that means that he really doesn't get any ankle pivot because you can't rotate the ankle. These joints peg into the feet vertically, and you can't really rotate the joint within the lower leg. You'd really need to be able to like hinge and then swivel to make this work. To give you the idea of what I'm trying to do, it's like this, where he can kick his leg to the side, have his foot flat, but not have a broken knee. So it's a little bit more limited to, I don't know, like a standard humanoid action figure from SH Figuarts or something. The 4 arms actually work pretty well. I wish the ankles and the legs were a little bit more posable and more stable. I think it would make him a little bit more fun to kind of get down into fighting crouching stances. But they're right to put emphasis on these arms. Definitely the main feature of this figure. Overall, 2 more solid entries for Blokees Pokemon. They're not the most complicated or articulated action figures out there, but for what they are, and for the price of around $30 US a piece, I think they're great. It's a really fun little line. I love these effect parts. They're very versatile, not just for your Pokemon, but this would work well in any kind of martial arts, whether it be Dragon Ball, Street Fighter. Critiques for Machamp: his design is very top-heavy and is not helped out by the limited articulation and slightly wobbly engineering on his lower body. Nidoking, on the other hand, is nice and sturdy, definitely the more stable, sturdy of the 2 figures. I also don't have the parts popping off problem like I do with Machamp. I don't know if it's just the way they're engineering these ball hinges for the wrists and these swivel hinges for the elbows, but they tend to pop off pretty easily when posing. Same with his hip joints. The drop downs are pretty loose, the ankles are pretty loose, and I guess one of the things Blokees misses by not assembling their figures in the factory is the chance to quality control check that everything fits together the way that it should. I think it helps them bring the cost down, which is great for the price of these figures. I think for small scale, limited articulation figures like the Pokemon, I can live with it, but it's definitely something to be aware of. I actually have a lot of fun putting these together. I know they're not the most complicated, multi-hour journeys like some model kits are, but just something about the experience of a bunch of parts coming together to make something really cool is very satisfying in any small amount. And for the price, I think it makes for a great little, hour-long activity or so. Plus, at the end of it, you've got some pretty cool, fairly posable, nice-feeling, great-looking Pokemon action figures. I'm mainly sticking to Gen 1 and Gen 2 stuff, just because that's the ones I know. As someone who missed out on the SHF Pokemon, and honestly most of the Jazzwares Pokemon, these are great, and I'm honestly more satisfied with them than I think I would be for the price of the SHF and the quality of the Jazzwares. My favorite Pokemon is Dragonair, and man, I'd love to see a Dragonair that has articulation as good as this Nidoking's tail. I don't know if they can do that with his slim body, but that sure would be cool. And then, apart from Gen 1 and Gen 2 Pokemon, it sure would be nice to have some Pokemon trainers. Blokees has made some, more traditional humanoid type figures. They've done some Hatsune Miku and Evangelion figures that look pretty good. So if they're able to do just, any generic Pokemon trainers, gym leaders, bug catchers that like shorts, even some of the named characters Ash, Team Rocket, Misty, Brock, Nurse Joy, or Officer whatever her name is, Jenny? Some of the, recurring background characters from the anime would be really cool. And another thing that would be really nice is just some, 1/12th scale Pokeballs that I could, give to other 1/12th scale figures if I wanted to turn them into Pokemon trainers. I think that would be fun. Otherwise, I hope they keep doing what they're doing, making great, large and small Pokemon kits from across the different generations. Like I said, Big Bad Toy Store has some up for pre-order, although I did double check and didn't see these 2. I'm not sure if they will be getting them at some point. Otherwise, I went to AliExpress. I know some people are hesitant to do that. If you are, that's up to you. But just treat it like eBay, look at seller ratings, and there are some really good, reliable sellers on there. So don't forget to leave a comment and let me know what Pokemon you would like to see next from Blokees. And until next time, this has been the Art of Action Figures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.